If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you're a hunter or you just enjoy the great outdoors. If you value your ability to hunt, now is the time to step up. There have been countless efforts to vilify hunters and denounce the legitimacy of the science-based wildlife management model. There's no science to this stance, and it is solely emotionally charged. We don't want to see what happened with the grizzly hunt replay itself again with the remaining large carnivores or big game species. It's a slippery slope, folks. We need to stand together. Now is the time for hunters to be united across all organizations and show our combined support. Please go to wildsheepsociety.com/act now and follow the steps. It doesn't take much time and it will help save the future of hunting. This applies to residents and non-residents alike. Please, let's use our voice and be heard. On with the show, folks. This is episode 14 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. On this episode, Wacedog and myself chat with Jake Downs. We talk about traditional archery and what it takes to hunt hard with a happy family at home. This podcast is brought to you by Gafaru International, the toughest hunting gear on the planet, bar none. Frontiersman gear, high quality, completely custom handmade knives made in the heart of the Peace Country. And as always, we're brought to you by Just Shooting Arrows, BC's premier archery shop. Where are you exactly? You're in Nebraska, right?
Yeah, northwest corner of Nebraska. Pretty nice. Close, like 20 minutes from South Dakota.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you have some family up there, I think.
Yeah, I still got some family. Yeah, my great grandma and grandpa came from Anselmo, Nebraska.
Yeah, I looked it up when you told me that. I've never been there, but honestly, I've never heard people think Nebraska. They think of Omaha and Lincoln, and I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've actually been to those places. I just never go. If we go to a big city, we go to Denver. I don't go east unless I have to.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like for me, when people talk about Colorado, we're heading west to Colorado. I'm like, that's way east for me.
Yeah.
I'm like as far southwest as you can get in Canada, right?
Right.
Are you,
yeah.
Are you do you have a backup bear plan this year, Jake? Are you if this border shit don't straighten out, what's your plan for bear?
I got a guy that offered to hang out. I actually gave him a bow, and I think he felt grateful. It's just a random deal. And he's like, hey, man, if you ever want to come hang out in Wyoming and hunt something, I was like, dude, I just want to shoot a bear. I don't care if it's a cub. I just want to that. Not that I would shoot a cub. I'm just saying I just want to shoot something for, 150-pound bear. I'll shoot it all day and just to eat it. But I might try Wyoming. I got another buddy that lives in New Mexico. It's kind of a guide down there. He offered to go hunt bears with me down there. So I don't have a good option right now,
but you know what?
You normally come up.
Turkeys are pretty cool because I've to be honest with you, I've never even seen a turkey. So
really,
I always think I always think it's kind of cool when guys are snuffing them things.
Oh yeah, well, you guys will have to come down and shoot a few. They're pretty thick down here. I mean, they are stupid, but they act. I mean, honestly, they can make you feel like an idiot, And the biggest problem with us is we have almost too many birds where it becomes, they don't want to come to decoys. They rarely come to calls, especially early season when we're hunting them with the bow. I mean, we can hunt them all season, but I like to get in there before all the shotgun guys get out and about. And
how is it to get drawn on them? Like to get your bow back? They pretty sketchy, or what? Are you in a blind?
Oh, it's in a blind. Not. I mean, you got to, like any animal. I mean, they see as good or better than any other animal, but just a normal blind movement will suffice. Out in the open, it's dang near impossible. I mean, I've done it a couple times just by sheer luck, but usually they're on the move because they see you and they take off. But
yeah, we're talking about maybe hitting some turkeys this spring in southeastern BC, but apparently it's quite the task with a bow up here.
yeah, there's some spots down here. Like I said, we have what you would call dumb turkeys, but it's mostly because they're more used to people. They're living in people's yards and, eating where the ranchers feeding cows. They're picking through the cow shit. And I guess I should have asked you, is this an explicit podcast?
Say whatever you want, man.
Okay. Well, you can bleep out anything you want. I got a potty mouth sometimes.
How do they eat, Jake? Any good?
I like them. I'll be honest, like the legs aren't great. But I mean, I've got some recipes for the breasts that are awesome. Like I like eating them. Some guys just hate them. So they won't even hunt them. But I mean, I usually shoot 4 or 5 birds a year in the spring and 3 or 4, I guess, in the spring. And then we can shoot 4 in the fall.
How many birds a year can you shoot there?
So 4 in the fall and 3 in the spring. So 7.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And then I can go up to birds.
Oh yeah. We got a lot of birds. And I mean, our seasons are long. Our fall season is September. I think it's September 15th. It's weird. It doesn't start with deer season. September 15th through like the end of January. And then it starts back up here in spring in March 25th and goes to the end of May. So,
man, that's good filler for deer season.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, this year I got a phone call from my buddy who's a rancher, and he's like, "Get your ass out here and kill these birds." They were in his hay, shitting on all of his hay, and yeah, he's like,
Do you ever hear any like stats on how many turkeys are killed in Nebraska each year?
No, I'm sure that stat is out there. They promote the Game and Parks here promotes the crap out of it. So what we end up getting is we get a bunch of dudes coming from everywhere to hunt turkeys because we have so many, and then all they do is they drive down the county road and stop along the private land and glass the birds that are on the private ground, because that's where 90% of the birds are. Once the rut kind of kicks in, they'll move. They'll split up a little bit and they'll move up into the trees sometimes. But it's pretty dense with hunters, during shotgun season. Once that happens.
Yeah, turkey hunting to me is kind of like playing baseball or something. It's not really that fun to watch on TV, but I think it'd be fun to do in person.
Oh yeah, no, it is. There's something about the way they act, like when they're strutting and drumming and fly. And they're coming into a decoy and they're strutting around it. And they're gobbling in your face. So honestly, I usually set my.
Where do you put your? Sorry to cut you off. Where do you kind of aim on them? Then do you got a spot you kind of try to hit? I don't know.
Yeah, basically right behind the butt of the wing. Yeah, it's pretty similar to. I usually look at the butt of the wing, but anymore, what I've gotten to the point, because honestly, turkeys are one of those animals that you may have to cut all this out, but turkeys are one of those animals that I've probably maimed and then chased down and like choked out more than any other. I mean, I've never actually done that with any other animal, but you have to with a bow. I mean, if you hit them, last year I hit one. We had it on video. I hit it perfect, and we never found that bird. They just got such a small vital that, and then they have that ability to fly as well. So blood trailing them can be kind of a pain, but Usually anymore, what I try to do, instead of shooting them broadside, I like to shoot them when they're facing me and aim for right at the base of the beard, right below the base of the beard. And I mean, a lot of guys will balk at that and say you lose some breast meat. But I mean, if you want to kill a turkey, because in that case, you're either going to kill it or you're going to miss it. You know, you're either going to get feathers or you're going to kill it. And I've had pretty good luck with that. But
So you're talking about right where the beard goes into the base, like kind of the base of the throat or wherever the beard goes in?
Yep. Right at that where that beard enters the feathers is pretty much where I aim. I mean, I'm a stick guy. You know how that goes. It's just kind of look at that general area and hope to God it hits somewhat close.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm asking, because I think we're talking about going to do this BC turkey hunt this year, and I don't know a damn thing about a turkey.
Well, here, I'll give you the best advice. I wasn't joking them out, man. Like, legitimately, if you hit one and he's flopping on the ground, get out of the blind as fast as you can and go grab them, wring their neck or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard they spring back to life, eh?
Oh, I've seen them fly away. I've seen them fly away with arrows in them. They are, and then they'll get in just the tightest, nastiest little brush you can. I mean, they're hard to find. They're hard to get recovered. So I always say, even if you think it's a perfect shot, if it's flopping on the ground, either put another arrow in it if you can get a good shot, or get out of the blind and get after it, and put it out of its misery as quick as possible.
Yeah, up here, there's not like a big, there doesn't seem to be a large number of hunters chasing turkeys every year. It's kind of like one of those things guys go after if they've cut their bear tags already, or if they happen to just be in that area. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you guys have the, good. If given the choice, I would much rather chase bears like most guys.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can go, hunt 3 here and 1 up in South Dakota, and, if I want to travel, I can, you can hunt turkeys all over the place. So, and relatively cheap, whether you go with an outfit or you just pay a trespass fee. There's a lot of places that are doing just non-guided hunts. You just kind of, they show you the land and away you go. And so it's a pretty awesome deal, but I'd prefer to hunt bears.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've actually spent quite a bit of time in BC and I think Alberta, right?
More time in Alberta. I've only actually hunted BC once.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
What did you chase here in BC?
Bears.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. And have you done the Southern Alberta muley thing?
No, I never have. Alberta, all I've hunted was moose. I've hunted moose twice. Was supposed to go last year. Of course, that didn't work out. And hoping to God they open up, but it doesn't sound promising.
What area in Alberta are you hunting moose, Jake?
Okay. Of course you'd ask me that. North of Edmonton, I think maybe a couple hours.
Okay.
Do you guys know Wayne Zaft by chance, or the name?
Yes, I know. Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, that's who I hunted with the first 2 times. And then I met the guy that was hunting with him. His name is Kevin. What's his last name? God, that's going to drive me nuts. Anyway, he was guiding me, and he was kind of starting his own thing. And so I booked with him, and actually Aaron and I both booked with him. Kevin Baldwin. I knew it was kind of a famous name.
Yeah.
Anyway, we ended up booking with him for last year, and it obviously didn't pan out, but
yeah, no kidding. So I guess we should maybe clue the audience in a bit we have quite a few like not stick bow type of dudes on here listening, and some guys might not know who you are and know your resume a bit, but you kill a pile of animals every year all over the states, and you're kind of one of those stick bow Jedis like Aaron and Wacey and a bunch of other dudes. I guess a good way to start this would be to, how did you get into the stick bow?
Well, I kind of always shot. When I was a little kid, we had a bear. I don't know what it was, just a lightweight bear recurve. My old man, he shot a compound, an old wheelie compound, with fingers and no sights. So that's how I started. Big fan of Fred Bear, and became kind of a fan of Fred Eichler when I was young, watching his videos. And so I just kind of gravitated towards the stick bow. I mean, I still hunt with a compound now. Like I always say, I'm just a bow hunter. I honestly hunt with a stick bow because of the simplicity of it. There's a lot of, it's getting more and more difficult in all the technical stuff that's coming out, which is all good stuff. But and I've obviously dove into some of it, tuning and different things, but I still just try to keep it as simple as possible, just because when I'm hunting, I don't want to have to worry about 10 things. And on my person, I'd rather worry about 10 things that the animal I'm trying to kill is doing. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. That's honestly the reason that I shoot a stick bow. And some people say, oh, stick bows aren't simple, but they can be. You want to learn as much as you can, but I think that simplifying things helps in the moment, but so.
When did you kind of get going with Bob Lee? And because before I got into these Tolkien bows, I was actually going to pull the trigger on a hardcore or an Abyss at the time, but I always heard really good things about the Bob Lees. But when did you get going? Like, when did you start shooting Bob Lee?
It's been a couple years now. Actually, when I started hanging out with Aaron, about the first thing we did was a bow test. We took a bunch of bows that people had given him. I had always shot a Palmer, obviously because of my love affair and whatever with Fred Eichler. He always shot a Palmer, so I was kind of following suit. And I had no idea, other bows. I mean, I knew about South's bows, but I'd never pulled the trigger. So I just went down there, and he had a Widow, Bob Lee, a Stalker, Wingard. I can't remember. There wasn't no Tolkien there, but there was, 5 or 6 bows. We shot all of them. And for me, the Bob Lee was the quietest, which is the biggest one for me. It wasn't the fastest, but they were all pretty similar in speed. A couple feet per second was all the winner was, getting. And the silence and the fact that it drew smooth, and what I really like about the Bob Lees is I've had, 4 or 5 wood bows that have cracked on me. So I just kind of was looking for an out on the wood bow thing. And that micarta riser, is pretty bomb proof. You'd have to do some pretty serious stuff to break that big chunk of micarta. And then it also adds mass weight, which is phenomenal. I used to be that guy that wanted the lightest bow, in a compound or whatever. And then I started realizing that that's not greatest thing. A few ounces more to carry around is well worth the stability you get out of it. So it just felt really good in my hands. It worked out really good because they didn't know who I was. I didn't even know who they were, to be honest with you. But I did know that they had worked with Mike Palmer at one time and, or partnered up with him back when Bob owned the company. So I just kind of fell into it. Aaron, was going to go with the Widow, and he called Rob at Bob Lee and was like, "Hey, I'm not going to shoot this bow. I can send it back, or I got this other guy that is willing to shoot it, and he kills a lot of stuff. Would you be willing to work with him?" And Rob jumped. He was cool from the start. Like we had a nice conversation the first time we talked, and I already had that bow Aaron gave me, and he's like, "Hey man, what can I do? Tell me what you want. I got to get you a backup bow. I'm going to build you another bow." And I was like, "Holy cow, this is crazy." Because
that's awesome,
man. Nobody's ever, I shouldn't, at that point, the only person that's ever given me anything was Aaron. He gave me, a few packs, or whatever, he had given me a few things, but I had never gotten anything from a company, or had a company value me at all. And and so from there, it just, kind of blew up. We just got close. I talked to Rob seriously once or twice a week. He's becoming one of my better friends. Just great guys over there. JJ's awesome.
Rob was his boy. Hey, Bob's boy.
Yep.
Okay, so Bob just passed not too long ago, I think. Hey.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
He was a legend.
Yes. Yeah, he was. He was one of the. And I don't know the story, so I shouldn't tell it. But he was back in the day when, it was just him and Bear Archery and maybe one other one. They were the stick bows.
I can't remember the name of their company. It wasn't always Bob Lee. It used to be something else.
Wing.
Yes. And I read up on their history quite a bit of their company, but yeah.
They've been making bows for a long time. And what's cool about Rob is he's always willing to adapt. Like these new limbs that we have been working on. I mean, we've been working on these things. Let's see, I don't know, since October. We just kind of started. I mean, we've sent some pictures out there before now, but he just released them. I've killed 4 or 5 animals with them, and it's kind of a game changer. That the only issue I ever had with the Bob Lee, the original limb, which the original limb is 100% a great limb. It's just a laminated limb, so you're not going to get a crazy amount of performance out of it. And it's, man, I am going to show how little I know about stick bows, but this new limb's obviously a little more super curve, so you get a little more speed out of it. But the only issue I ever had with it, because I don't care about speed, I care about sound,
noise,
and the other limb. Yeah, the other limb, the only thing I ever had is when it got hot, and it's sitting in an antelope blind or something, the limbs, I had them twist a couple times, which isn't the end of the world. Obviously, anybody knows stick bows, you could just twist them back, But I didn't want that to happen and then miss a chance at an animal. And with these new carbon limbs, that pretty much solved that problem. And if you can believe it, I can't believe it, but these new limbs, whatever secret sauce, Brian Broderick helped out with these. The guy with Day 6, he's a buddy of mine, and he's worked on bows with Spartan bows, or God, I can't remember actually what it's called. Anyway, he's been doing these carbon limbs for a lot of years and got the kind of recipe figured out. So he actually helped out a ton with the limb, and it's actually quieter than the original limb. I don't, and faster. It's pretty awesome. And they're more dead in the hand. So.
Yeah, Brian Broderick, he was pretty good. I was shooting his day 6 heads last year, and I shot a bear, and I hit the offside leg, and it broke the tip off, just the very tip of it. And I messaged him, and he sent me replacement heads. So I was pretty. He backs his heads 100%.
Oh yeah, dude, and he's such a good dude. He's been super good to me. I had a guy message me the other day, and he had already talked to me about buying arrows and broadheads, or maybe just arrows. I can't remember, but he texted me the other day. He's like, "Hey, my decision's been made," because I talked to Brian for like 30 minutes, and he almost kind of tried to talk me into just shooting what I've got, so I don't spend the money. And he's like, "Right there, dude. I'm sold." And that's the kind of guy he is. He's not really in it to make money. He's really, what he's in it for is just to make the best hunting gear he possibly can. And he's super innovative. So, it's cool to be involved in that, because he invites me out to Alabama, and then I don't get to see any deer, but it's a good company, man. I must have, because I keep hearing about these unload your quiver, get out of the tree, get all your arrows, and unload it again. And I'm like, I shot it like I did shoot at 2 does this time, but last year I shot 1 young deer, and that was it. Like, it was crazy. So.
That's awesome.
Going back to that. Sorry, Ty, but I just wanted to swing back and talk about that the Palmer bow you had, because I know that's what Eichler did his slam with. And I was actually always wanted to get my hands on a Palmer, and never got the chance. So how do you stack that Palmer up against like a Bob Lee?
I would put it honestly equal with the Bob Lee. I liked it. The only issue is, honestly, every one I've ever had it developed a crack. And I don't want to, I like Mike. Some people don't really like him. I don't think he really cares anymore if people like him or not. He's, been pretty good to me. We're not friends or anything, but I've talked to him on the phone a handful of times, and I can see where people would get the wrong idea about him. He's pretty quiet, but just the way he laminates the bow together, that spot, I don't know what it is, but I've had all my risers crack on me. So, I mean, as far as the performance of the bow to the original, it's pretty similar, to be honest, to the original Bob Lee as far as performance in the limb. It looks fairly similar, the way, it curves or whatever. And I don't know. I shot my Super 10 with the same bow, with the Palmer. So, yeah. But at the time when I was, having all the cracking problems, and then I did the bow test with Aaron, it was time for me. I knew it was time for me to move on to something, because I knew Mike wasn't going to be in it for that much longer. I'm kind of surprised he's still in it, but it was just a good time for me to transition.
I've all but switched to micarta now as well. I still got a 1 wood bow left, and right now it currently has a crack in the shelf that runs up through the crack runs up through the riser. So I've pretty much retired that bow. That bow means a lot to me. There was an older bowyer who made it for me, so I'm just hanging on to it just as a sentimental value. But other than that, I'm kind of moved on from wood risers as well. Not saying all wood risers crack. There's some good ones, but I don't know. I think that micarta Black Widow's doing G10 now. So.
Yep. Well, it's kind of funny. I had a guy message me because we're talking about bringing a new bow out, or a new bow model, with Bob Lee. And he's like, I hope it's G10. And I'm like, tell me what your problem with micarta. Tell me why G10 is better than micarta. And he was like, well, I guess I like micarta and phenolic. You know, I was like, you know, people just get this. My biggest problem with any gear out there is when people take it to a extreme that's above what you're using it for. You know what I'm saying? Like if a arrow or whatever breaks on concrete, is that really a good test to hunting? Maybe it is. You know, you want the most durable arrow you can have, or broadhead you can have, but at the end of the day, I get some of the testing, but some people take things just a little bit, and I'm not talking about testers because that's what they're there for. Like Aaron has made, you know, he goes out there and he tests stuff to the extreme, but then people take what he's saying and they warp it, and they're like, oh, well, that thing is inferior because it failed in this really extreme situation. And I'm going, okay. And it's the same thing with the bow. Like, for me, I look at it as a hunting thing. I don't think I could take my micarta riser and break it in any fashion or form on a hunt. I mean, I think if I threw that bow off a cliff, the limbs would eventually come apart, but the riser is going to be dinged up, banged up, but it's a solid piece of micarta. What are you going to do to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean,
did he see a test somewhere that showed that micarta, somebody breaking the micarta riser?
No, it's just something that was in his head. And I'm not downgrading the guy because I've done it. I've been there. Like I've 100% switched because of one thing somebody said, and I have kind of migrated back to some of those things that I've switched from because I never had any trouble with them. But I don't think nobody has the actual stats of the, what honestly G10 is, and I'm going off of what somebody told me. G10 is a little bit stronger than micarta. I guess it's got more harmonics. I'm gonna have so many people like, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about.
I think with this stuff though, you kind of reach a point of diminishing returns though. Anyways, you know what I mean?
That's what I'm talking about. Is
in my old businesses, guys would be like, "Oh, I want you to build this out of Inconel instead of titanium because it's a little bit a minute." It's like, dude, you're worried about ounces and you're never going to get there. A lot of people aren't worried about real world situations anyways. And I mean, G10 and micarta are so close in the first place. I mean, one's made out of fiberglass and one's made out of linen. It's like almost the same thing. Like we're splitting hairs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it other than in a normal hunting situation, you can't break either of them. So what does it matter? G10's a little heavier if you like a little heavier bow, but I know it's harder to build with because it is a little bit harder material. I don't really care. I've taken my Bob Lee and my wood risers to Alaska and everywhere in between, and I've never had an issue other than risers cracking, and it wasn't from wear and tear. It was from just whatever humidity.
Yeah.
So I mean that the material rabbit hole is just that, a rabbit hole. I'd love to. You kind of just touched on it a bit, though. I'd love to hear some of maybe your top hitters, because you've done some cool trips, man, and like your profile picture on Instagram's a goat. me and Wacey are doing early season archery goat in BC this year. So
nice.
Yeah,
I actually created a hashtag for Jake because you know how
is it dedicated?
No,
or is that just you?
Do you know how? Do you know how that? What is that? The Instagram group Hush, and they had the fireball. When Jake killed that grizz last year, I started hashtagging Fire Bear.
You dang right. Hell, I was hashtagging that.
I might have stolen from you even. I don't know. I love it.
I do too, man. I still use it when if I post that again. Yeah, dude, it's I took a lot of heat on that one. That bear, I think I accidentally hashtagged like brown bear or something and got the freaking green police called on me.
For what?
The internet biologist?
Oh, geez, dude. It was crazy.
Well, was it just because it was over bait, or was it because you just killed a grizzly?
Nope. Just because it was a grizzly bear. How could I do such a thing? And they were endangered. And I found it kind of fun. You know, one guy was like, they're endangered. And I was like, holy cow, then I must have seen all of them, because I think I saw 25 in 5 days. He's like, I don't even think he responded. But, I mean, there were some nasty comments, but I didn't. I kind of read them because it was funny. But
I'm so used to that. I get a lot of hate in the predator world, as most predator guys do.
It's so funny. I'll put you could legitimately post a picture of you standing over a fawn with a bloody knife in your mouth, and you would get less hate than you do over killing a bobcat. I mean, it's insane. I don't know why people
understand. Like the anti-hunters or whoever these bleeding hearts are, I don't know why they all love predators so much. I just don't understand. I don't know if it's because they have dogs and cats as pets and they're kind of
conflating the two.
Yeah.
I don't know. Weird. And all the stuffed animals and stuff kids get are teddy bears or cats or whatever.
What's the word? Anthropomorphizing animals, right? You know, when we're growing up, that's all the bears are on all the shows and everything. And I mean, shoot, I think all of our kids probably sleep with teddy bears and stuff like that. I mean, probably not Wacey's. They probably sleep with like stuffed moose or something, but still. But I don't know. That's probably where it comes from. And then there's definitely a disconnect from reality. We got into it with Snyder the other day because Wild Sheep, I always mix them up, Foundation Society, whatever one is based in BC. Sorry, boys. We just had a white paper released here in BC about how the same people that were going hard after the grizzlies here are now going after just all large carnivores, right? To get them taken off the table. And none of it's based off science. None of it is headed up by a biologist. It's like, you know, whatever famous pop star or actress or whoever that's heading it up. And it's nonsense.
Yeah. It's all emotion based. And it's almost got to the point where I don't even care to talk about it. You know, it's like, you can't, I mean, they're not going to change, you know, I don't know. The world's changing. And I don't think it is really. I think it's all been this, and I think it's all the same as it always has been. We're just more in the know. And, you know, obviously there's dumber people out there every day because, you know, I don't want to get into that, but I just think, it's a changing world. And I just kind of,
yeah, I mean, me and my wife talk about it regularly, how like I try to stay off Facebook, but you get on Facebook and you scroll through your news feed and it's like every person you've ever met with every single one of their thoughts, opinions, and ideas, just like shouting it at the world. Like, my name's Dave and I don't think you should fish that river. And my name's Sarah and I just got a coffee. It's like just everything and anything. And it's like some stuff kind of reverberates with people enough where it starts getting traction. It's bizarre. It's a weird place.
It is. Yeah. And some people think like I'm in the hunting industry. Let's use air quotes on that one.
Yeah.
And let me just get this out. I have nothing against anybody that's in the hunting industry. But I make zero money off the hunting industry. If you take social media away from me, I'll stop getting a few discounts and a few free things, and that's it.
Yep.
Like I go back to the same world. I live the exact same life, other than I don't put a few things on social media. And like today, I posted that deal where I got kind of worked up because you guys know about my hashtag, whatever. And literally last year, I did that because I was like, all right, I need some motivation to get up at 2:30, 3 o'clock, go work all day, work out, and then, spend as much time with the kids, still shoot my bow, and then maybe do a little paperwork before bed. And I'm not complaining because there's guys that, that's the whole thing. Like I get these guys that are showing me up and I'm like, damn, I got to work harder. And that's all it was about. It's not about building followers. I could care less. And every single person on social media says the exact same thing. And maybe most of them mean it. But for me, I'm not going to say that I don't enjoy, when somebody makes a nice comment and says, hey, you're really motivating me, or, hey, I picked up the stick bow because of you. Like that kind of stuff is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And sure. I don't get a ton of hate. So, I don't have the following like Aaron does.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, take it away from me, I feel no different.
Same boat. Yeah.
But do I say I hate it? No. Some days I do, and when I hear something or I get worked up over something somebody did, and a lot of stuff could be taken out of context. You know what I mean? Like you could get offended by something that's not, I try not to read too much into things, but the whole thing with me is it started out as me. I used to have a shirt that said "fuck Facebook" in the face, like, and this was not that long ago. Like my buddy Levi, we were hunting Arizona this year. We've been friends since we were young kids. And he goes, dude, it was only like 2 years ago. I was sitting here in camp explaining to you what hashtags were. Now you got all these followers. And I'm like, yeah, it's weird. And it only came, from Aaron, hanging out with Aaron, people kind of, and I've been on a lot of podcasts. So, but that's not my goal. Obviously building followers. I'm not saying I'm not trying to build some followers because, hey, I'll be honest with you. A discount on arrows or, camo or whatever, something that I'm going to destroy every year.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that extra money and go hunt it. That's my theory. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. It helps. It helps for sure. And you know what? The other side of it too is you look at guys like you and guys like Aaron. You guys are doing positive in the hunting community, and you're doing some education work, and you're doing a lot of you're pointing guys in the right direction with gear. And I mean the videos and stuff Aaron's doing are phenomenal. And with your earn your fall thing, I mean, how many guys are using that hashtag now as a way to motivate them to get out of bed and get up after it and still maintain their family life? I mean, that's probably the direction we should take this conversation to, is kind of where that came from and what it's all about and how you actually do it. 'Cause you're a dude that has an electrical business. You have 2 kids and a wife, right? Or 3 kids?
2 kids.
2 kids and a wife, and you get out there and I mean, what do you hunt? 60, 80, 90 days a year or something crazy?
I would, I hope my wife doesn't listen. She knows, I guess. It's probably,
she knows when you're not there.
It's probably over 100. It's probably
my wife added those days up this year, and we had a pretty rough talk after that, but it was all good. So I feel your pain.
I think I slept away from home. I think I figured it out. I slept away from home for like 70 days, which is a lot for a non-military person, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And having young kids and a business to maintain and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's kind of where the earn your fall thing came from, right? Hitting it hard in the off season.
Yeah. Well, and see, and that's why I kind of changed it this year to earn your hunt, because I hunt, all year long, other than in the summer. Summer's when it gets pretty busy, but I'm always looking at the next hunt. Like, right now I'm actually going to go to Texas in a couple weeks, and then, turkeys, and then hopefully a bear, but I'm always looking at something. And obviously I'm really digging in for my sheep. So, what it all came from is over the last, 10 years or so, I've built this life, that any human being with some drive can do. And that, honestly, that's the honest God truth. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people is I am not special. I am not rich. My parents are not rich. Like my company is, as of right now, it's me and one employee. That's it. We're not, I don't own some massive company. I'm the secretary, the ditch digger, head apprentice, head electrician, all that stuff. This summer we had one other guy. So I'm not running a big company that's making a ton of money. But I've strategically built my life over the last 10 years to where I can work when I need to work and play when I need to play. And everything had to fall into place. One of the biggest factors in all of it was my wife. I met the right woman. She is amazing. And not every guy gets that. Some girls are not okay with that. And it's hard on my wife. I'll be honest with you. I can tell hunting season beats on her, especially with two kids. Like, it'd be different if we didn't have two kids. But
man, I relate big time. I have 3 kids under 4, and I think we were approaching like 70 days in the field last year too. And I mean, Wacey's in the same boat. He's got 4, and he works crazy shifts and stuff like that. But I think what you're saying with arranging a lot of things in your life to make it happen, I think that's huge. And like, I don't do a lot now outside of hunting. Like exactly. I mean, this podcast is turning into something that's taking up some time. And if it starts to cut into hunting time, you will be seeing less episodes. Let me assure you that. But, man, like any opportunity I have to hang out with my family now, that's what I'm doing. And then any opportunity I have to go hunting, that's what I'm doing. And I kind of work my work around that. You know what I mean? Get in as many hours as possible this time of year when there isn't as much opportunity for us here in BC and Alberta. And then all summer I'm home, we do a quick bear hunt and stuff up here. And then when the fall comes, I'm hitting it.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's what you got to do is it's got to be top of your priority list, and there can't be much on that list. And I always preach the whole, family first, and then hunting and work. And for me, that's it. That's all I have. I don't have any other hobbies. I don't have, anything else. So I just put everything I have into whatever I'm doing at the time, and if that's family, I'm trying to be there as much as I can for my kids and my wife. And, you can only do the best you can. There's only so many hours in the day, but, I think some people just don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I really want to get my hunting mentor Ronnie on the podcast, because he's like man, he's just like us. He's got 4 kids. He's about 10 years older than me, and he's way deep into stone sheep hunting here in BC. So he does like these big, heavy 20-day long crazy backpack trips. And like, he's one of those guys that has made no effort to have a social media presence or anything. Mm-hmm. The guy's the man, but he's like all year, he's just with his family, working super hard, stuffing money away, spending every second with his kids. There's not much recreation. And then September comes and he's like on that plane to go get that sheep, you know? Mm-hmm. And like, he I think has been sort of like my roadmap to how to get to do what I want to in life. You know what I mean? Like get those, 50, 60, 70 days a year in the field chasing critters. And I don't think you can do it without making some concessions, making sure that your spouse or whoever is getting what they want to,
Yeah. The biggest thing about, it hasn't always been this way. I didn't always hunt 100 to 150 days a year. But I hunted as much as I could. And, as I built my business up, I saw opportunity to make things easier. When I was on a hunt, and I'm, getting messages on this big project, and I'm like really stressed about it and thinking I need to go home. And that's a learning experience because I quit bidding projects for that time of year. I can do my most strenuous stuff in the spring and summer when there's not. And honestly, that's when most of my work, is going, in the nicer time of year. So I just try to orchestrate that, and then I'm always trying to, be as good of a husband as I can when I'm at home, take the trash out, be helpful, do the dishes. Yeah. And that's all just normal stuff. And, I've been
it is normal. And I can tell you and I are on the same wavelength with stuff like this, but it's not normal for a lot of dudes. A lot of dudes aren't willing to do it. And, and they don't realize how they'll suffer for it later. It takes nothing to do the little stuff and have it pay off big time in the long run.
Yep. Well, that's all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make while I'm at home as easy as possible. And I'll be honest, my wife is a superstar. She works a full-time job, takes care of the kids. And my little boy, man, I mean, I'm good with them after they, start walking and talking. But when they're little and screaming, I love my little boy to death, but when he starts screaming in my face, I just hand him off. So,
dude, exact same. She's so bad.
So I always tell young guys, I'm like, you watch, be careful who you, who you hang out with, who you, for sure, be careful, don't have a kid with somebody that, I don't know. I got super lucky, to be honest.
Isn't going to let you go hunting all the time.
It can be a problem. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and if it's what you want, if you want to hunt and you can figure it out at a young age and you don't do dumb stuff like me, you can like Aaron said, he didn't have a new pickup. Like I think you said that too. Drive older trucks, don't have the toys, just put your money, put your time, don't stop at a gas station and buy 3 energy drinks, just all that money, it can go towards a hunt. So everybody says, oh, that must be nice. They don't understand sometimes what goes into it.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that people don't understand, and I was talking to Broderick about this when I was in Alabama. I basically, and I'm not going to talk about it on here as much, but I told him what I make, and he was like, "No, you make more than that." I said, "No, I don't." And I make basically just a decent, I make obviously above minimum wage, but I make just a decent wage. But where we live, cost of living is low. My house it's like a freaking mansion, but I bought it when I was like 24 years old for like $120,000. I mean, like,
oh, buddy,
this house in a city would be worth $750,000, but it ain't. It's not here, and everything is cheaper where I live. So I'm making a decent wage that a guy in a city would be making, but I'm able to put more away. And when I put stuff away, I take all that money and I paid everything off. So once you have, that's what I always tell guys. I mean, I'm constantly preaching, pay as many bills off as you can, because that's extra money every month that can go into the hunting fund. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, you're speaking to a largely Canadian audience too. So when you say you bought your house for whatever, 120 or 150 or something when you were in your 20s, it's like, I think all of us just fell over.
Yeah. I mean, see, people that live, I told that to a buddy of mine that lives in up in the mountains of Colorado, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I mean, literally, if you guys come out here, it's a big house. Like, it's nice.
That's awesome.
I take pictures in my man cave, I've added on to it, and I got a big shop and stuff. It just kind of all came together through my business. I ran my business out of my house or my shop for a while, and then I moved it. So I have a big shop that, but yeah, dude, the cost of living here is low.
That helps. That helps big time. Like,
it helps a lot. Yeah.
Out where I live is just ridiculous. It's like there's actually a housing crisis here where people can't even find places to live. It's I don't know. It's stupid. We actually just moved way east in the last couple of years because we didn't want to raise our kids in the city, but that's another story altogether. So, I mean, that's awesome that you put so much focus on getting after it, and that kind of maybe helps guys put the pieces together for how they can maybe get some more time in the field and how they can work towards that goal. Right. So kind of the fruits of doing all that and organizing your life to do it, you get to do these cool hunts. And I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I mean, maybe in the past few years, what's been your kind of favorite stick bow hunt that you haven't talked about 45,000 times that you're tired of talking about?
Well, it's kind of funny because most of the time I'm on podcasts and I tell the goat hunt.
Yeah.
People want to hear about the bison hunt, which it's not epic at all. It was free range, they're not, but yeah. And I've told this story a million times. They're not afraid of you. So they didn't, it wasn't that hard to get fairly close to them. It wasn't a penned hunt, but, so I don't really, let's see, what are my other ones?
My hunting partner, Chad, shot a bison this past year with a rifle. And I was like, we brought it up, I think, on the second episode of the podcast. And he's like, yeah, so I shot a bison in the head, and that was like the whole story.
Yeah, it literally, I shot the coolest, or the craziest thing about mine was after I shot it in the lungs, we trailed it for like 3 hours, sticking many arrows into it. It was from like 70, 80 yards. It was crazy.
The pincushion.
Oh, dude, it was nuts. The pictures of the cowboys and Indians, or the Indians chasing it's pretty realistic, but
he just didn't want to die, or what?
No, and I hit him low in the lungs, and I think his chest, their body cavity so big that it just takes so long for him to bleed out, and he was just bleeding into his chest, and we just basically shadowed him, and a few times we have drive the truck up on the hill and get him turned around and kind of coming back towards us, and stuck a couple more arrows in it. I mean, it wasn't something I really want to do again, other than I want to shoot one. I might just go do what Aaron did and shoot one in a pin, and get the meat, because I mean that's all he did it for, and to test broadheads. But the meat is phenomenal. But it's not really a hunt I want to do again. The goat hunt, I wouldn't mind doing that again.
Last year.
That
Go ahead, Luis.
well, I just seen as we're talking about shooting critters here. I wanted to ask. So you shot that grizz, hashtag firebear. You shot
Fireball.
You shot firebear with the day 6 Evo wide.
I shot it with the day 6 Evo XL.
This is turning into a Brian Broderick plug, isn't it?
No, I just want to know, like, how did that bear bleed, and how long did he till he expired? Was it like just how your setup worked on that bear?
40 yards, he was dead. We didn't even blood trail him, to be honest. It was crazy. So after I shot that bear, and I've talked about this before, but the biggest thing on the bear, like, it was baited. We were on the ground in a ground blind. And what I tell people is the challenge of that hunt. I mean, we slept in the blind for 2 nights. It was brutal. It was a tiny blind, 2 of us. There was roots in the blind, because we were under a tree. It was very uncomfortable and wet.
Everybody in Canada just said, "What did he say?"
Roots.
What'd I say?
Yeah, roots.
Oh,
you
roots.
said roots.
Roots. Oh,
Roots.
Gotcha.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah. Just give me some credit. I'm from Nebraska.
Fire bear.
Yeah, that's right. But the hard part about that hunt is the amount of money that's placed on that shot for a blue collar guy, puts a lot of stress on that shot, and
no kidding.
If you wound it, that's it. That's your bear. And same with the goat. But no, that head and we, it was real wet. And like I said, I shot that bear and I was shooting the lighted knocks. And as soon as I hit it, my guide Harold was like, "Oh, dead bear." That's just what he said. He said, "Oh, dead bear." And I was like,
Nice.
Holy crap. And it just crashed off. And then it was just dead silent. I'm not kidding you. We waited like 2 minutes and he's like, well, actually another bear came in, a female. She was happy that the male had finally left, and she came in to eat, and he might have waited like 5 minutes, and he's like, "Nah, screw it. Let's get out." So I'm like, "Are you sure? Should we give him like a half hour?" He's like, "No, he's dead. He's laying right over there. I guarantee it." I'm like, "All right, you got the gun. You go ahead." I'm not kidding. We just walked. Yeah.
Go. Sorry. I was just going to say, the one thing I like about them day 6 heads too is I'm not one of those guys that's good at sharpening heads. So with one screw, I just swap out a blade, and I really dig that. I dig that on them heads.
Me and you, we get along pretty well. We're a lot alike. I don't like them either. I'm like saving all of mine, and I'm going to take them to Brian one of these days to say, "Here, sharpen these." I have sharpened them. But yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know. I've had such good luck with them. I don't have, it's not just because I'm friends with Brian. That was kind of an afterthought. I started shooting them because Aaron told me to, and just had really good luck with them. And I'm kind of a creature of habit. I try to get one thing and get comfortable with it. And then, then I don't, it's just one less thing I have to think about.
I feel like I need to start adopting that, because I like to play with my setup far too much. And
a lot of guys do. And I've fallen in that, and I'm still, playing with certain things that I'm not 100% happy with. But once I find something that's been pretty effective for me, I try to just leave it alone. It's cheaper that way too.
Yeah, for sure. I have a bow on order with South right now, but in the interim, I ended up with a Tolkien whip, and I don't know if I'm gonna shoot the new bow when I get it, because that whip is just like phenomenal. And like, I'm not a longbow guy either, but I love it.
Yeah,
it's working for me. So, that goat you shot, that was in Alaska, right?
Yep.
That's cool, man. Yep. I've never been up there. I don't think Wacey has either, eh?
No, not for hunting. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome place. I honestly, well, like I said, I'm going sheep hunting in August, and it's one of them things like the bear. I didn't really ever think I would shoot a brown bear. It wasn't like it was on my bucket list, but it was kind of just like. And then over the last few years, as funds have gotten better and whatever, I just booked that and started paying on it, and man, just being up there, I was hunting with Harold, sitting in camp, listening to him talk about sheep hunting, and I was just like, damn it. I gotta do it. It was something that I had planned on maybe doing, a few years from now. But honestly, I look at all those hunts as things that I'm not going to be able to maybe do as easily when I get older. And, if I can still have a comfortable amount of money in the bank, to feed the family and go, then that's what I'm going to do. And most people wouldn't spend the money. I've been told, from a few guys that make quite a bit more money than me that I'm crazy. And maybe I am, but that's just kind of how I am. I spend a lot of my extra money on hunting. That's just what I do.
Yeah, I think everybody, I think it's hard to do any hunt without spending a gang of money, just gear and everything else. It's not a cheap pursuit, no matter how you kind of look at it, but it's money well spent regardless. That's something that I think Wacey's probably going to have to spend some dough on in the future, because that's one thing I can't host him for in BC is the sheep.
We got sheep in Alberta, man. We got the majestic bighorns, so
yeah,
I can OT. I can over the counter bighorns here. So
can you? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really? In the bow zone or?
No, that's 410. I think is. You can hunt them with a bow. General. No, we have a general bighorn season.
Really?
Betcha.
Am I allowed to hunt them in Alberta with general over the counter?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll stick to muley out there anyways.
Yeah, I think not. I think hosted non-residents can only harvest like muley buck, bull moose, bull elk, whitetail buck. I think that's like, that's the list.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I think, as far as like, people have asked me if I'm going to do a super slam, and honestly, I'm never going to say never, but I think a stone sheep's going to be a little tough on me. Because just the cost, a doll sheep's pretty up there, but man, a stone is, that one in a polar bear might be a little bit of a hiccup, but
I've never even looked at polar bear hunts. Are they just insane?
They're not. They're pretty insane. They're like 35, 40.
Yeah.
But I think, some of them stone sheeps are like 60, aren't they?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. I guess I'm just super lucky because I'm in BC, right? We can kind of go hunt them over the counter.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty neat place to live with the amount of species we can chase here, right? And I feel super lucky.
You had said it was fallow deer, right? Too in BC. There's
fallow deer here.
Really?
Yeah, they're mostly on private in the Gulf Islands, like the southern islands between the mainland and Vancouver Island. There's fallow deer. Yeah, but there's like the season is super long and there's no bag limit, but the issue is getting access to an island that you're allowed to hunt on.
That's crazy. I didn't know there were fallow deer there.
Yeah, there's another spot in BC that, I don't know if I should say this actually. There's another spot in BC where the bag limit is like, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, I think it's 5. I think it's the possession is 5 deer for Like you're allowed to shoot 5 deer every time you go.
Wow.
And they're just blacktails. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty wicked. So let's, before we wind this down, let's, maybe I'll get you to tell one of your stories, something that stands out to you.
All right, let me see if I can think of something that I haven't told 100 times.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the issue with being a guy that jumps on these things all the time, right?
Well, and I honestly don't. I mean, I do. I've done quite a few over the last couple years. But I mean, I'm only 33, and I've only started going on what you would call adventure hunts, of late. Everything else before that was deer, antelope, elk, just the normal everyday stuff. Yeah. But
well, even like an elk hunt or something that stands out to you would be awesome. I mean, the stick bow thing to a lot of guys is still just like completely crazy, Well,
and I can, yeah. Well, no, I'll tell I haven't actually told this story that many times. My first elk. So elk are my nemesis. Like when I go elk, elk are just, I don't know what it is. I'm a terrible hunter when it comes to elk, I guess. We started hunting elk when I was like 12 and having all sorts of trouble. But let's see, it would have been, let's see, I'm trying to think of how long ago it was. Maybe 8 years ago. I don't know. I was probably like 24, 25 when I finally killed my first elk. So I guess it would have been, anyway, 8-9 years ago. I can't do math. I was invited to go elk hunting with a buddy of mine. I had met him at a 3D shoot in Colorado, and super nice family. They were awesome.
Yeah,
took care of me and my wife. We didn't have bug spray. We were the idiots that went in June up to the mountains and didn't have mosquito spray. Anyway, this family was super nice, and this guy, really, that was like his thing, elk hunting. He invited me to his honey hole, which we had to apply for. So we applied. I didn't have any points, and I didn't draw. And he's like, no big deal. He's like, we'll just go to my backup. I haven't been there in a few years, but it's over the counter. No big deal. We'll go up there. There's elk up there. We'll find some. And I didn't care. Like I would have shot a calf, dude. I did not care. I wanted to kill an elk really bad with my stick. So we went up and hunted we backpacked in, kinda. We only went in about a mile and a half, but we just kind of camped in, so we were kind of closer to the elk, and ended up missing a cow on, I think, day 3. Hit a branch, just devastating. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like I finally get my chance at whatever, 22 yards. And I hit literally stuck it in this little 1-inch branch that I thought, no way I'm going to hit that thing. So, it was, I think, on the 6th day. I had to go home the next day. And we had moved around and gotten into some elk, but nothing crazy. And the last evening, we were making a push. We had bumped some elk, and we were actually just headed back to the camp. It was about a mile, basically straight up above us. And we were walking along kind of this elk trail, I guess. And I just kind of looked up ahead of us, and there was a bull elk standing in the trail about 150 yards away, just raking his antlers up against, the top. And I couldn't even really see what it was. I just could see that it was an elk, and that this is how late it's getting. I mean, it's getting low light, and we're far enough away. And I was like, I just kind of whispered at him, and we ducked and kind of went down the hill. What I didn't realize is he saw a bunch of cows. He didn't even see the bull. There was a water hole off to the left, and the cows were all drinking at the water hole. So as soon as we dropped off, he was sneaking up on this water hole, and we kind of peeked up over the top, and there was no elk there. They had all moved out into this big meadow. It was kind of a big, whatever, I don't know, just a big open area in the trees. Yeah. And so my buddy, he gets on his bugle. He starts bugling. This bull is bugling, and we're kind of moving along the edge of the trees. And we get where we got the last little clump of trees that kind of sticks out, and then it kind of drops off, and then kind of goes up the valley. And that's where all the elk are out there, about 100 yards, 150 yards. And it's starting to get pretty low light. And he's bugling this elk that I can see the elk out in front of me. And he's just lining his cows up the hill, just like they're leaving. And I know very little to nothing about elk hunting.
Yeah.
I am not taking credit for this, but this is what happened. In my brain, I thought maybe we should do a cow call. So I just whispered cow call. And he's like, it like dawned on him, like, oh yeah, that would be a good idea. So he called cow calls, and I'm not kidding you. That bull come on a string, just straight to us. And this is how good of a friend he was. This bull comes up the hill. Thank God I didn't even look at this bull. I didn't look at the rack. I just was watching his silhouette coming up the hill. It's last light. And I drew back and shot. And I don't even remember a thud. Like, obviously I hit it, but this was a long time ago, and I was losing my cool. Elk had got me, I'd hunted them for so long and had never killed one. I knew this was a decent bull. Anyway, it whirls, takes off.
Yeah.
And pretty quick we hear, a bunch of sticks breaking, and then what sounds like an elk falling over. And my buddy's freaking out and high-fiving me, and he's like, that's a monster. That's a monster. And I'm like, and I seriously told him, I said, do not say that again. I said, until I got my hands wrapped around him, don't tell me anything about that elk. Nothing. He's like, okay. So it gets dark. We can hear it over there just breathing, just sucking blood, sounds like he's, dying. Definitely got a lung. And so anyway, he's like, all right, let's just back out. Let's go back up to camp. Because he didn't, at the time, this was like right after I bought a Kafaru, my first one. He didn't have one. So he had this day like fanny pack.
Oh,
and then,
no.
Yeah. And then he had a frame pack up at camp, or up at the truck, about a mile up, straight up. He's like, let's just go get my pack. We'll come back. We'll blood trail him. He'll be laying right there dead. I'm not. And of course, I'm just like freaking out. So we go up, get his pack, come back down, and we find where he was laying, and he's not there. And so we're blood trailing him through this big meadow, kind of down. He's going down, so at least it's good. And
yeah,
he's not going up. Yeah. But all of a sudden, blood's starting to get sparse. All the brush in there's real tall, like hip high, and I'm just starting to freak out. And that thing where you just, instead of getting on the blood, you're just kind of wandering around, like praying to just see him.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of funny. We were like, no, we got to go back to where the last blood was. So we walk back to the last blood, and we're kind of on a trail, not his trail, because it's just a trail where, they've been walking through there. And we're pretty close to that water hole. And my buddy, we're kind of walking down the trail, looking for blood. And he shines his light up and he looks at me and he goes, "Do you remember something being in that pond when we come over the hill? Big hump?" I said,
"Oh no."
I said, "No." And I just took off running and I, ran over, and of course his rack sticking out of the water. I mean, just a giant bull. And I literally, I couldn't have been a happier human being on the planet. It was one of the most brutal nights. We packed him out all that night, butchered, had to pull him out of the water. Of course, I was going to mount him. And I didn't cape the skull out because I didn't know what I was doing. I still barely know what I'm doing. So I had his rack, his skull, and a wet hide on my pack. One of the heavier loads I've ever carried because I'm not.
Yeah, weighing approximately 4,700 pounds.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like I have no idea, but it was quite a bit. And I think we took that load up that night, got back to the tent about like 3 a.m., slept for like 2 hours, got up, went back down, got the rest of the meat. And I had like a hind. I had at least a hind and maybe a couple of back straps, or I can't remember, but I felt like it was way less weight than that skull and rack. And, I never had him officially scored, but my buddy scored him and he was just under 370. So
that's awesome. That's a wicked bull.
It was crazy because at the time I wasn't very successful. I'd go on hunts and my wife, she wasn't that used to me actually killing something. I'd kill a few things here and there, but I had told her, I was like, well, the cool thing is you never have to worry about me bringing an elk home that I'll mount because there's no way I'm going to shoot a big bull. I sent her that picture and I said, I might have lied to you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It was a pretty special hunt. That one's really sticks out.
That's awesome.
I don't know if people that never have hunted big game, like newer people to it, like packing a moose or like packing, that shit sucks so bad. It's like I was carrying a moose hindquarter with a bone in because we deboned my bull last year, everything, but one hind we had to leave the bone in because you have to leave the testicles on for reference of sex. Mm-hmm. And my tag was on that quarter with the testicles. And I'm not shitting you. If my pack wasn't 120 plus pounds, I'd be lying. I feel like I compressed my spine a little bit on that one.
The video that I posted today of my 2020 muley, it's a front quarter, a back quarter, back straps, and the head. But it was like 16 kilometers from camp. It's just like part of me died that day.
How many miles is that? Because I can't do the math. A lot.
I'll Google. I'll be Jamie here.
Look that up, Jamie.
I got to tell you a story about the only moose I've ever killed. It's going to make you laugh.
9.9 miles.
Mother, that is all nightmare.
It sucked in the video too. That's Ronnie that's recording that video. In the video, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're 4 hours in and we're 10 minutes from camp." We were like another 3.5 hours from camp. We were like just past halfway. Like way underestimated.
At that point, Ty, do you not think it would have been better just to call it a night, make a fire, and cook some deer, just camp out, or what?
Oh, buddy. So what okay, so you'll like this story, Jake. So this was a spot that Ronnie has hunted forever. So it's like his spot. And I was actually telling Wacey about it today. But we got into these kind of they're like the breaks along a river there. We're glassing down in and there's all these does that looked all, kind of out of place. Like something was pissing these does off, like getting them up and moving them around, and they were all kind of bedded in sort of weird spots. And so I was like, I want to go look down in here. And he's like, that's really far down. I wouldn't normally go that way. So anyway, we ended up deciding to do it. And he's like, oh, if we go that way, we're committed. That's going to be kind of it for the day. Because by the time we get out of there, whatever. So then we end up glassing up this buck that I killed. And yeah, I shot him right down at the bottom of the mountain. So we had to come all the way back up. So the first, I think, I can't remember the numbers, but the first 2 kilometers we climbed like 99.9% of the elevation that we had to get up. It sucked. So I don't know. It took so long because we were just so fried by the time we got up to like elevation.
Oh yeah, dude, that's rough.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like the Instagram pack outs are cool and stuff, but man, it sucks. It's not the best.
No.
I'm all about doing it the easiest way possible. So I'm kind of one of them guys. It's like, if I can kill something close to the road, that's where I'm going to kill it. You know what I mean? Like, if I need to backpack, that's when I'll backpack. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of guys, and 100% not talking about Aaron, because he needs to backpack where he's hunting. That's the way he hunts, but he's not backpacking in Texas or Oklahoma. Like, he's smart enough, and some people think that it's the only way to hunt. People have asked me, if I backpack in Nebraska, I'm like, dude, if you walk for 5 miles, you've crossed at least 5 roads. Like, what? Why would I backpack? It's not a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all about that, making it as easy as possible. And honestly, there's so many guys in the backcountry anymore down here that it's almost better to be, closer to the road. There's less people.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably a little different for us up here. Like, one of the spots that I hunt elk in, I've been in like 3 years in a row, and I've seen one dude, and he was only, a kilometer in or something. Right. So,
well, and you guys have big wilderness, like you guys have big, even in Colorado in spots, you go 10 miles and you might be closer to the next, another trailhead or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of recreationalists out now, and it's just different, I think, down here than some of that bigger country you guys have, which I'm not.
People go missing up in our country all the time.
Oh yeah. I hear Aaron talk about it too with Colorado. He's like, you just keep walking one direction and eventually you'll hit a highway.
Yeah.
And that's like completely foreign to us. Like, if you start walking in the wrong direction where we live, you'll never be seen again.
Yeah, exactly.
Missing in Spatisi, what's it called? That article?
Oh, well, I drew that tag, bro. And me and Chad were going to go do that last year, and the COVID thing kind of screwed us up. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to get up there, and then Chad wasn't sure about booking off work if we weren't going to go on the trip, right? So
yeah, but for most people that don't know what we're talking about, there was been a few guys missing in that mountain range over the years. Hey? Yep. Hunters and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they call it it's like the range is Spatisi, wasn't it called?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's like I mean, there's a lot of books on that area. It's a pretty famous stone sheep range, but it's pretty rugged, man. A lot of people go missing in that country.
Yeah, it's a lot different, where you guys are like I said, I only go remote as I have to. Like this last year, I didn't do hardly any physical hunts. That's why I'm massively fat right now. Just didn't have that many physical hunts. I killed a lot of stuff. I did go elk hunting, but it was in New Mexico, and there was, as a road, there's quite a few roads. We were camped along the road. We were hiking every day, but it wasn't anything, that we needed to backpack.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I ever experienced a hunt that wasn't like kind of like a backpack hunt was in Alberta, like southern Alberta with Wacey. I mean, I know that's a pretty far departure from what you normally do too, right, Wace? But that was a whole different thing where you can see so far and there's roads everywhere and there's fences. And like, that was like, I think Wacey got a kick out of me and Chad trying to open gates. Like,
yeah, see, that's what's cool about where I live is that's why I get to hunt so many days, because, you know, I got a place that I deer hunt that's like 2 minutes from my house. Like I can come home after work, throw my clothes on and roll and, you know, be sitting in a tree stand in 5 minutes. So just the opportunity, I love to go on adventure hunts, but man, just sitting in my backyard shooting turkeys and deer is fun too. So I kind of love it all.
Yeah, I'm happy to hunt any way possible. I think Wacey's in the same boat, right?
Yeah, man. Anything I can shoot. I'm ready. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapping her up here now, but
yeah, let's put a pin in it, and we'll catch back up with you soon, Jake, and I'd love to be checking in with you throughout your season and throughout your year, and you know, find out how you're doing. Yeah,
sounds good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and keep me posted. Hopefully, your government will open up, and we'll get to hang out in person one of these days.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram @WildernessLocals or at our website at wildernesslocals.com.